Gilbertini is the nanny of Mischievous Baby, and she's been looking after that little troublemaker since day one. She reads him the same damn story every night to get him to sleep, about some nanny who takes a kid on a wild adventure in the city. Meanwhile, Lorraine Caldwell has hired a baby photographer to take some snaps of her precious little angel. Bennington, her husband, is all like, "Why do we need professional photos of our baby?" But Lorraine just wants to show off how cute he is in the papers. Because that's what every parent wants, right? To compete for the title of cutest baby in town. But here's where things get interesting. The photographer and his assistant get hijacked by some crooks who steal their clothes to break into the Caldwell mansion. And of course, they show up just as Bennington is heading off to work. Perfect timing. Gilbertini's getting baby ready for his big photo shoot, while Lorraine's getting herself all dolled up. Meanwhile, the crooks are setting up all their gear, waiting for the little guy to arrive. And when he does, they kick out Gilbertini, his mom, and the butler, claiming they need the kids' full attention for the perfect shot. Gilbertini starts smelling something fishy in the air when Lorraine insists on getting a photographer for little Bink's photo shoot. But being the compliant nanny, she goes along with it anyways. Talk about bad timing. Just when Lorraine goes to change her dress, the thieves make their move and escape with the baby through the window. They even bring along Bink's favorite book to lull him to sleep. Smooth move, guys. Of course, when Lorraine and Gilbertini come back to the room, they freak out when they see that the baby is gone. And when Bennington finds the ransom letter, it's game on for the police. The bad guys want a cool $5 million to return the baby. And they even give instructions to drop the money off behind a factory by midnight. These crooks aren't just sneaky, they're also punctual. Honestly, if they put this much effort into getting a real job, they might actually make some decent money without all the risk of getting caught. Just saying. So, after a wild ride, the kidnappers finally make it to their hideout with the baby. But then, in a move that defies all logic, Vico pours the baby's milk on Norby's head to test the temperature. What was he thinking? Norby loses it and slaps Vico upside the head, and they start brawling like a couple of toddlers fighting over a toy. Meanwhile, the baby is wide awake, probably traumatized by the whole ordeal. Desperate to get the baby to sleep, Norby resorts to reading the same old book the nanny always reads to him. Seriously, can't they come up with something more creative? But it seems to do the trick, and the little tyke finally nods off. Meanwhile, back at the Caldwell mansion, the FBI is collecting DNA samples and Lorraine is ready to go out and search for her son. But one of the investigators tries to talk some sense into her, telling her she'll only get herself in trouble. Yeah, sure, just sit tight and wait for the FBI to save the day. That always works out well in the movies, right? Norby can't stay awake. The boy is on a mission to find that darn dove, and the goofs are really living up to their name. Eddie is so mad at Norby for falling asleep that he knocks himself out trying to catch the kid. But things take a turn when the baby breaks into a lady's apartment. She doesn't even notice him. Talk about being invisible. And just when you thought things couldn't get any weirder, the kid hops on a bus, a blue one, just like the book. But don't worry, our trio of geniuses is hot on his trail. They chase that bus like their lives depend on it, causing chaos on the streets. Finally, the baby ends up in a shopping basket. I mean, where else would he be? The lady who owns the basket gets off the bus, and little Bink is still none the wiser. Norby talks to the bus driver and asks if he's seen a missing baby. The driver's like, nope, and calls his company to double-check. Meanwhile, Vico spots the little troublemaker hiding in a basket and the chase is on. The lady with the basket thinks they're about to rob her and goes all Jackie Chan on their butts. While the goons are getting wailed on, the baby crawls away and ends up in a mall daycare. But the little rascal manages to sneak out by hitching a ride in a stroller and stealing a baby bottle. The trio catches up to him, but he slips away yet again, giving them the slip like a pro. Meanwhile, Bennington gets a call from some shady dude who claims to have info on the baby's whereabouts. Of course, he wants cold, hard cash for the goods. The couple coughs up the dough, and the guy tells them their baby is across the street. The FBI raids the apartment, thinking they've found the missing baby, but nope, it's not their kid. Lorraine apologizes to the poor lady and leaves in a huff, while the woman just prays for her to find her son. Back to the baby. He hops out of the cab and makes a beeline for the zoo. But the bad guys are hot on his tail and try to cross the street to get him. The criminals end up falling into a ditch like a bunch of clowns. After they dust themselves off, they stumble upon the zoo and discover some traces of the baby. Lo and behold, they find the kid inside a gorilla cage. The gorilla even thinks the baby is its own child, and when one of the criminals, Vico, tries to snatch the baby, he gets a good whack from the gorilla. Not deterred by their failure, these geniuses come up with a new plan. Eddie, the mastermind, tells Norby to use a broomstick to yank the baby out of the gorilla's grasp while he tries to distract the animal. Surprise, surprise, it doesn't work. The gorilla catches on and tosses Norby aside like a rag doll. But don't worry, they don't give up that easily. After the baby and the gorilla take a little snooze, Eddie tries to sneak the baby out again, only to get tossed around by the gorilla like a chew toy. Eventually, the baby manages to escape on his own while these buffoons are busy getting their butts kicked by a gorilla. Back at Lorraine's mansion, she's dreaming of seeing her son's picture in the paper, but instead, she gets to deal with these idiots and their never-ending shenanigans. But wait, there's more. Even though they're not the sharpest tools in the shed, the criminals still manage to spot the baby again and chase him into a tunnel. Of course, they catch him on the other side, but then they have to hide from the police like a bunch of scaredy cats. Eddie even tries to sneak the baby out under his coat like he's a secret agent or something. Bink pulls out his lighter and starts a fire, accidentally of course. And guess what? The flames reach the pants of one of the criminals, who starts acting like a crazy person because he can't give away the location of the boy. Vico and Norby, being good friends, try to distract the cops and lead them away, while Eddie is busy putting out the fire in his pants and running away like a chicken. But wait, there's more. Baby Boo ends up at a construction site and nearly gets run over by a tractor because he's too busy watching the workers. Then he stops for a snack, because priorities, right? While he's munching on a donut on top of a metal beam, the tricksters show up and Vico sees the boy being pulled up with the beam. So, Eddie and Norby park the van and the three of them enter the construction site like they're on some secret mission. They go up the stairs and into the elevator, but things go haywire when Vico jumps onto the beam and it starts to slip. He falls onto the elevator, and poor Norby tries to help, but ends up falling face first into a wooden pole. Meanwhile, Eddie is pushing his accomplice off the beam like it's some kind of sick joke. And the bad luck doesn't stop there, folks. Norby wakes up, tries to get up, and falls again, this time into a cement mixer. But hey, Eddie has his priorities straight, and orders Vico to jump into the elevator, even though he falls and hurts every muscle in his body. This guy just can't catch a break. First, he tries to kidnap a baby but ends up getting hit on the head with a plank and falls into a container full of construction materials. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. Then, to add insult to injury, he gets a nice bath of dirty water without even trying. I mean, talk about a rough day at the office. But Eddie isn't one to give up easily. No, sir. He holds on to that banister for dear life, trying to catch up with the baby he's after. And what does he get for his efforts? A face full of gooey liquid. Yuck. But wait, there's more. When he finally tries to climb down using a hook and rope, he gets stuck up there because everyone else has gone home for the day. I mean, talk about bad timing. Eddie's just hanging there, crying out for help from his equally incompetent colleagues. Meanwhile, the baby he's after is having the time of his life, crawling around town like a boss. The nanny finally figures out where he is and rushes over to the veteran soldier's home, where they find him safe and sound. Thankfully, the FBI agent is on the case, and they're able to recover the baby and bring him back to his parents. But Eddie? Well, let's just say he's not going to be retiring anytime soon. Looks like he's going to be spending some time behind bars instead. Baby's adventure is finally over. He's been found safe and sound at a veteran's home where he was serenaded by a group of old soldiers. Sounds like a sweet gig, doesn't it? I'd bet Baby felt like a VIP with all those people singing to him. When his parents, Gilbertine and Lorraine, saw their little bundle of joy, they were over the moon with relief. They scooped him up and rushed him back to the car, where Baby uttered his first words, boo boo. And who do you think he was referring to? None other than the nanny and her trusty book. Thank goodness for that clock on the building, because Baby was able to point out exactly where his book was. Dale, the private investigator, was quick to act and called for backup to nab those dastardly kidnappers hiding out in their apartment. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not too fond of people who mess with kids. And it looks like Eddie, the head of the operation, has learned his lesson. He promised he'll never do it again, and plans to go back to his old ways of robbing banks and mansions. But let's give Baby some credit. Not only did he survive being kidnapped, but he also led the police straight to those criminals. Talk about a tough little guy. After all that excitement, Baby finally gets to go home and get some well-deserved rest. But not before picking out a new book to read, this time about a baby who takes a trip through China. Hey baby, don't forget to pack your passport. If you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below. And if you want more of this epic content, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.